It has been nearly a year since I released my video on VergeIO's VergeOS. These days, a year feels like a lifetime in the world of enterprise virtualization. I've been curious to see how the past year has been for Verge, so I reached out to Jason Yeager, SVP of Engineering at VergeIO, to see how the company's doing, learn about new advancements in their platform, and to find out where their Homelab version of VergeOS is. This video is sponsored by Brilliant. We talk a lot about solving problems and thinking through systems here on the channel. And that's exactly why I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is hands down my favorite way to actually learn and sharpen problem-solving skills. It's not just watching someone lecture at you, every lesson is interactive. You're dragging things around, running through problems, and actually playing with the concepts. That's how you really learn, and it sticks way better. Honestly, it kind of feels like tinkering in a home lab. You don't just read about it, you get hands-on, you break stuff, you try it again, and suddenly it clicks. For me, the computer science and data courses are a blast. If you've ever wanted to go deeper on Python or wrap your head around how logic circuits work, Brilliant makes it approachable. And if you're like me and you're always trying to level up just a little every day, Brilliant makes it easy. 10 minutes on your phone or computer, and you're building a real learning habit that actually compounds over time. What you're seeing here is one of Brilliant's interactive lessons. Instead of just giving you the answer, it pulls you into solving the puzzle yourself, and that's what makes it stick. So if you want to give it a shot, you can actually get started for free. Just go to brilliant.org/2guystech, scan the QR code on the screen, or hit the link in the description. And Brilliant has a special deal for you guys up with 20% off an annual premium subscription, so you get unlimited daily access to everything they've got. And now, let's get back to the video. Joining me is Jason Yeager, Senior Vice President of Engineering at VergeIO. Let's get him up on stage here. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out and chat with me.
Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it, Rich.
I wanted to start this off by, before asking you any questions, just kind of give you an opportunity to describe your role at Verge as Senior Vice President of Engineering and kind of tell people who you are and what you're about and all that.
Yeah, so I'm the SVP of Product Engineering at VergeIO. All of the engineers, the developers, and the customer success team all roll up under me. We also work pretty closely with the solution architecture team. So I work a lot with those teams. So really everything technical in the organization kind of rolls up to me, except for one of our development team of our core underlying operating system, which rolls up to our CTO. And so we get to work on a bunch of cool, fun stuff with our customers, solve problems for them. Whether it be through architecting systems or solving issues that they may be having with our software. My team kind of manages all of that. We do all of our Terraform and Kubernetes integrations and recipe engines in our marketplace. All that stuff all rolls up under me. So a lot of fun stuff happening right now. Yeah,
it sounds like it. So I have a few questions to ask. I'm going to start with a three-parter because why not start with the longest question first? And that is, it's been a year since I looked at VergeOS. And I would say that a year was, it's been about a year, I should say. And it feels like these days, the change in enterprise virtualization or just in the marketplace, everything is just so fast. Like 1 year is a lifetime instead of just being a short period of time. So I think I wanted to start off first with asking you, like, where do you see the state of enterprise virtualization now? Followed by what's been a positive change that you have seen since the year that I looked at VergeOS, and then what has taken a change for the worst?
Yeah, so the state it's still in chaos. I mean, the Broadcom acquisition of VMware has caused a lot of chaos in the market. You've got a lot of customers that are hit with expensive upgrades, licensing, changing from perpetual to annual based to subscription based licensing. You've got a lot of those customers receiving 3 to 7x what they were accustomed paying to. So it's really the current state of the market is really in a lot of disarray because of what the Broadcom acquisition, even to the point now where you're seeing Nutanix is really adopting some of the same sort of pricing structures and increases to their customers. So we're seeing a lot of Nutanix customers. And, I think Broadcom has kind of created this, and it's been good for their investors, right? I mean, It really has been. It's been good for their stock price. So, there were obviously some things that they needed to streamline there, but it's left a lot of customers, with not really knowing with what they're going to be doing. And so over the past year, that's just accelerated because you had a lot of people initially pay the 1-year ransom, sign an agreement. And so we're just continually seeing more and more of these VMware customers, a lot of them coming to us to look for different alternatives. And, that's good. That's good and bad, right? I mean, the disruption is bad, right? Customers don't want to pay more for stuff. At least not by leaps and bounds, the way that some of these pricing hikes are. I mean, it's really, some of it's really painful, for some of these companies that, some of these companies that aren't that large, that could mean the difference between being profitable and not being profitable, right? So that's bad. The volatility in pricing, once VMware, set the market, then Nutanix gets to come behind and everybody gets to come behind and start raising their prices. They are trying to simplify licensing now with VCF, it seems like. So maybe that'll do. So there's some good things, right? So one is innovation, right? We're a platform that is very different. It solves the same needs as VMware, but is very different, right? We're a single operating system. There are a collection of many different things that you have to put together. So there's the innovation that, some of these companies that we're talking to, that they didn't really realize there were things like ours on the market because they were just stuck with VMware, right? Mm-hmm. So that's good. Simplified management, HCI platforms alike, like VergeOS or Nutanix or something, it's simplified, right? So I've got one entry point that allows me to manage the infrastructure. And with VergeOS, it's even more simplified because we turn every system into a single API and UI. It's fully configurable. So performance improvements, we have a lot less overhead. Some of these platforms do. So there's a lot of good that's going to come from this. Customers are going to be able to innovate. They're going to be able to operate in a cheaper manner than they've been accustomed to, especially with the price hikes. So I think there's a lot of good and bad mixed in with it.
Yeah, I would say, that it still holds true, a year later, that while a lot of people would lament the death of VMware, give or take, right, in becoming Broadcom or however you want to slice it, it definitely created an opportunity for companies like VergeIO to really be seen. Like it was like the clouds split and all of a sudden there was light in places that admittedly should have had light to begin with. But when you have such a monolith in the industry that just blots out the sun, so to speak, it's really hard to get your time in the sun. So I'm glad to hear that's changing for you guys, because when I looked at the product and went through it, not only my viewers, but myself, I was just like, damn, this is awesome. This is really, really cool. And so it's good to hear that you're making good progress on that, and that there's, that opportunity in the market.
Yeah. Wait till I tell you about some of the things that we're going to be releasing soon here in our next version. I will say that. So we do view it. It's been a blessing for VergeIO. We've been in business for a while now, and it's really hard to compete in a market where VMware owns 85%, or 80% of the market, and then Nutanix. So, our SVP of sales, he's a pretty funny gentleman. He said one of the things he says is he's so happy with Hock Tan that he's having a life-size bust created of him to put in his foyer. I mean, so it has been a gift for Verge. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said, a gift for Broadcom's stockholders as well, right? Yeah. So everybody is winning except for the end user. Right. That is really where the chaos, the disruption, and the end user that was cast away. And they've done multiple rounds of those, price hikes that affect different people. Those are the true losers in this situation right now. And we're here to help them. So, and a lot of them come to us and end up going, I feel like I'm in a better situation than I was before. I wish I would have known even before the price hikes that there was software like ours out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only thing I would add to that is that I know from put my customer hat on here, from a customer perspective, that you, especially as a smaller shop, or even, it actually doesn't matter the size. You are looking for a partner who you at least feel has a equitable interest in your success, right? Not I'm going to squeeze you and get every drop of blood I can out of that stone. That you actually know that company you're aligning with is going to be there to help you be successful as well. And that was the thing that I knew. I know a lot of people who moved off of Broadcom who they could afford the price hike. It wasn't about the affording the price hike. It was the decision made that they didn't trust Broadcom as a partner, and they weren't going to hitch their wagon to something like that. So that's a I know you already know this.
It matters how you do business.
It does. It really does.
It does.
100%.
And I'm sure that there was a way that they could have handled it that wouldn't have caused that. I'm positive there. But you're absolutely right. We've heard that over and over and over again. There was a level of trust that was broken. That's kind of like one of those social contract trust things. Like, this is just not how you treat a partner that's been with you for 1, 2, 3 decades, right? We're talking decades in some cases, right? So it's really, it's unfortunate, but a lot of those customers are a lot happier today.
Yeah. So moving on, I wanted to ask you, it feels like there's, as of late, been more of a kind of a trend for more consolidation. You can look at Broadcom consuming VMware. You can look at the most recent change with Scale Computing being acquired by Acumera. I wanted to ask you, as a guy who's in the trenches, do you think this is indicative of a larger consolidation happening in the market, or is this just the churn of normal business?
No, I think these private equity firms have realized that infrastructure software is sticky. It's really sticky. Once you implement or deploy Verge or VMware or Nutanix, it doesn't matter, right? This is infrastructure software. It's expensive and risky to change. So you have to trust the partner. So it takes a bit to do that, which is, but it is creating opportunities for, revenue optimization through pricing power and market consolidation. So these PE firms, they look at Broadcom and go, okay,
that works,
we want to replicate that.
Right.
That's essentially what they're doing. And so I really do think it boils down to, unlike most SaaS, right? Infrastructure software is extremely sticky. You look at the average lifetime of our customer is measured in many, many, many years, right?
Right.
So these are things that you don't change. And with Acumera and Scale, I think that's somewhat of a similar thing as well, but it also was really complementary to Acumera's core business, right? It made sense, and Scale's got a great name in that edge space. So, from that perspective, I think it was strategic for them to acquire a Scale, but I do think they realize that it's really hard to get off of this once you get on it. And so it's very sticky.
Yeah, I think that's it's a good point, because I have now been around long enough to see a cyclical trend of physical to virtual to cloud and off premise, and then kind of coming back to on premise, right? Like this whole idea that I feel like there was a time that there was a belief that virtualization was coming to an end. It was dying in terms of being an on-premise service platform that you as a company provided to the businesses, if you were. But it feels like we are seeing the cycle come back around when they're seeing those, the loss of control, the expense of doing stuff in, a hyperscaler, and kind of pulling that back on premise, because, it actually is affordable and it's not too hard to do.
Well, yeah, if you were back right after the pandemic, the hyperscalers' revenue tripled.
Yes.
Or it just, and it was out of need, right? We had to figure out a way to support work from home and things like that. And so what you're seeing is a lot of that is coming back because the cost is a lot higher. And also there is this, especially with AI, this whole push to keep your data private, keep it contained within my four walls. There's a lot of industries where that is applicable to them. So you kind of see a shift goes in, comes out due to cost, or comes out due to keeping it private. We may see a shift where it goes back in. You never know. It does seem like it's coming back, though.
It does. We'll move on from here because I think you and I could just talk about the cycle forever. But how's VergeIO's growth been in a year? I mean, you kind of alluded to it a bit of being very successful, but like, can you tell me what sectors you had good growth in? Where have you seen your biggest wins? Because I want to know more about how the success has helped Verge.
Yeah. So just we are kind of like industry agnostic, but we're we're infrastructure software, right? So banks can use us, things like that. We've seen a lot of growth in federal, education. And then kind of that, they're not quite enterprises, but, talking like, around $1 billion to $5 billion in revenue, that sort of companies where we see a lot of traction. And when you talk about use cases, it's seeing a lot of edge use cases. I mean, whether it's AI or whether it's this push to get the workload closer to the user, it's applicable to AI. It's applicable to a lot of things, right? Right. And so we see a lot of edge and edge AI cases, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing with AI later. But it's been so busy. I mean, I think it's like we've tripled our customers since.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Everything is up across the board in a, exponential manner. And we're now starting to get a lot of recognition from, larger organizations. So I mentioned we have a lot of federal government stuff, and these are big name organizations within the federal government, but also we just closed an enterprise agreement with Topgolf. So every single one of their, NVIDIA's going to be announcing full support for VergeOS, and what we've already built into our product for NVIDIA's GPUs. We're going to be one of a handful of hypervisors that are going to be validated for all their vGPU stuff. Awesome. That's coming in the first quarter. We're currently working on our Veeam integration with Veeam as well.
You can actually ask that. Yeah. How's your backup game coming?
It's coming. Right now we have a partner out of Poland, Storeware, that's integrated with our API and our, everything that you need to do that. But we are currently working with Veeam, and that we'll be releasing that soon. We haven't really announced the date yet, but we're currently in development on it, and we're in development with them, so we kind of control a big portion of it. And so I think, it's not going to be long until we announce support for Veeam. And they're coming to us. We're working with them now. Whereas a year ago when you talked to us, we were hunting for all these people, right? We were having to try to see if people, now they're coming to us. A lot of it due to Topgolf, but if you've seen our success over the last year, a lot of these companies have been following us, and now it just makes sense. So full NVIDIA vGPU support for their AI developer workstation, as well as graphics-based. And we support that today.
Sure. But
NVIDIA doesn't, if you call NVIDIA, they're going to say, well, we don't support VergeOS, but they don't really say that.
Sure.
Really, but full support for NVIDIA is really going to be huge. Veeam's going to be huge for us. And then, as we'll talk about in a minute, we're going to have a lot of functionality that we're adding in our next release. So it's going to be a big year for us over the next 3 to 6 months anyway.
I will say before I move on here that, for a lot of businesses looking to evaluate VergeIO and VergeOS, backup is the long pole in the tent, right? Because if you've been in this industry long enough, you've come across a situation where you've had to change from one backup platform to another. And it means you're not just changing, you're coexisting with a bunch of legacy that you have to wait till those backups age off. So I'm super glad that you're getting on the Veeam wagon, because, Veeam is, in some regards, and the audience might disagree with, kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the virtualization backup.
We know, yeah,
arena. Yeah. So that's. I mean, Jason, that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
It's game changing for us, and we recognize that as it would be our number one sales objection for sure.
Well, you've alluded to it quite a bit. Let's get technical. Let's talk about what's changed in a year and what's on the horizon. Like, just hit me with all the exciting stuff here.
Okay. So, I mean, your audience, the last time you looked at it, I can't remember what version it was on, but it was pretty much where our software is today. We may have added a few things, but so we're kind of with our next release, which it'll be released in the next 30-ish days or so, right? In the next
real
month
close.
or so. Real close, yeah. We're doing a number of things. We're revamping the entire user experience, which I'm sure when you get your hands on it, I'm sure you will greatly appreciate some of the things that we've added from a user experience perspective in our interface.
Yeah.
Yep. We're adding some things like immutable snapshots. Today they're immutable, but you can delete them. So we're going to allow you to schedule things like that. But really, what the majority of what we're going to be releasing, the major components are around AI. So today, the way that Verge works, we kind of turn your CPU memory and disk into pools of storage across nodes in a system. You may have not gotten a chance to play with this, but we also do that for physical components that may be installed in the server. So GPUs or vGPUs, as I mentioned, you can actually put those into resource groups that can span across many nodes and assign those resource groups to workloads, and they can pull from whatever, if you start a workload that's assigned to this group that has like 10, NVIDIA GPUs in it, and only one of them is available on node 6, it will power up on that node attached to it automatically. And you can do that with vGPUs and physical GPUs as well. We're going to expand that to include AI, ML related things. So you'll be able to create a group of GPUs, and you'll be able to have models spin up automatically on those GPUs, all orchestrated by VergeOS.
Nice.
So we'll have a model. Yeah, we'll have a model catalog where we have a curated list. You'll be able to upload your own models. You'll be able to interact with these models. We're building in an OpenAI compatible API into the Verge API. So you'll be able to interact with these with VS Code. As long as you have network connectivity to your system, whether it's local or wherever, you'll be able to interact with the models with the tools that you've been accustomed to using, VS Code, anything LLM. We're also you'll be able to interact with the models through the interface as well. There'll be a way you can build an assistant. That assistant is attached to a model that can be spun up on a GPU or on CPU as well. We'll allow you to spin up models on CPU. You'll be able to attach documents to those assistants.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot. This is all releasing in the next month. So there'll be a full suite of AI related services. There'll be a lot of updates. We always do performance enhancements, a lot of that kind of the back office sort of stuff. There'll be a lot of that mutable snapshots, but the core components are around AI and how we're going to allow our customers to basically they'll be able to do all their modeling privately if they want to, right?
That's awesome.
All their AI related things modeling. It sounded like we were walking on a catwalk or something like that. But they can take everything that they were doing publicly. A lot of the use cases that we've been hearing today is my cursor bill is huge. We've got all my developers are using Cursor. I want to stick some GPUs in my Verge system and allow my developers to use those vGPU or whatever. And they'll be able to do that with Verge. So I'll let you ask some questions.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's an interesting way to do it. You actually solve one of the big problems I think a lot of us who are playing with AI right now are doing, which is kind of like disparately. I've got a virtual machine. I pass through a GPU to it, and I'm doing this thing, but like turning it into part of the entire orchestration and management of VergeOS is awesome.
We kind of view it as it's now part of the data center. If you look at our software, we can collapse the entire data center into a platform, right? A single software platform. And this is just an extension of that. Allowing you to leverage to some of the built-in technology we have with GPU resource groups, vGPUs, loading models onto CPU. It really, I mean, we're already using it for a lot of things internally because it's been in, early preview internally for a while now. But, like some of the things that we use is, we have a set of code, we have source code that we may not want to put into the, public, open AI or Claude. We want to be able to do all of that stuff locally. We talk to law firms. They don't want to put all of their legal data in
or can't,
AWS.
Right? Yeah.
Or can't, right.
Right.
And so so not only is there that private AI use case, but also the cost use case. Because once you start talking to some of these organizations, what they're spending on their Cursor bill or their OpenAI API cost, it gets astronomical pretty quickly. The more developers you have.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're talking about paying a company like OpenAI at a minimum $20 a month per head, and you've got thousands of employees who you want to try to control. We live in a world now where you can't not use AI. This is the future tools, right? And so it's going to be it sounds like you're solving one of the big problems that I've even mentioned the company that I work for in the day job, which is like, you can't give everybody this because it's going to kill you in cost. We need to find a way to spend the money up front and run it on our own. Get some, solid models, be able to ingest all the corporate data that you've got, whether it's in the cloud or it's on premise. That's awesome, man. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to, you got to get it in your Homelab again.
Well, I mean, that's a question that I do want to ask you because, as an aside, when I released that video, one of the first comments that I got was like, "Where's their Homelab version?" I see you've got this, Rich. You're the YouTuber who's got access to all these things, but where's my copy? So, Jason, where is their copy of it?
You told me you were going to put me on the spot with this.
I absolutely. I mean, this is I will die on that hill. That it is like a twofold benefit. One, it brings people into the VergeOS and Verge. Let's just say that the fold of your software technologies, and two, it's how people learn and how they get better, right? And if you're going to be a leader, I feel like you kind of have to have this thing.
Got to do it. It is absolutely something that has been on our our own product. It's been on our product roadmap since I've been here, actually. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of reasons. Mainly the reason why it hasn't been done yet is just because of how busy we've been. I talked about
that is understandable.
But we have a framework now that I think we're going to talk. I think you're going to see something come out in the very near future that will give people a way to, deploy it, a community edition of Verge. And we all want to do it internally. It's about making sure we have the infrastructure set up correctly, which isn't really that difficult for us. But,
sure.
We just got to, we need a community as well, right? A Discord community. So there's a couple things that we want to set up, but everyone internally at the company is bought in on it. We just have to launch it and roll it out. And so I would say, I talked about all this NVIDIA, this Veeam thing. We're releasing the software. That's kind of our focus right now, is getting this next version of the software out. But in the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to see pretty much all of those things checked off the box and released out. So, and you can launch it. I'll let you help us launch it when we do the community edition.
I would be honored, sir. That would allow me to close the loop on that too, because, like I said, it's one thing to have access and to run through it and enjoy it and show it off, but it's another thing to be like, look, now you guys can try it.
You use it. I mean, that's what we all want, to allow anyone to be able to use it with some restrictions, and we'll get there for sure.
Well, I mean, that's really all the kind of the questions I had. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up or, mention?
I don't, outside of all the stuff that we have going on with Verge, what are you seeing? What are you seeing from all your users from this pain? Are you seeing the same things from your users as far as VMware and the pain points around VMware and what are their plans?
It's that's a great question. I've seen a litany of different approaches. I've met a lot of incredible people who are in the same situation that I am in, and that others like me are in, and that was like, well, where do I go? Where do I go from here? And I've seen a doubling down of people like myself who are diversifying their skills as much as possible, trying to get their hands on everything they can, including like the HPE just did a community edition of their Morpheus hypervisor and their platform, which I've personally yet to play with. It's on my list of to-dos. But, it's easy for a lot of them to say, well, okay, well, I'll drop in and I'll go to Nutanix because it's, the VMware Nutanix has been around forever and therefore the thing. But then they get sticker shocks off the Nutanix bills. And they're like, now what do I do? Right now, like I can't go to and buy another, $3 or $4 million worth of hardware and licensing if I just need 3 hosts. That's crazy, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of stuff
do
that
every 3 years or something like that,
right?
Whatever that is.
Yeah, so that pushes them towards the a lot of them are pushed towards the open source side of things, which is not a problem. I don't think that depending on the size of your company and on who you are as as an engineer or who you're the person who's care and feeding of the hardware, you can make that work. I think that there are still problems with doing that a company like VergeIO or even Scale, I know that what a lot of people are looking for is they're looking for a partner to replace the stack that they have. And that's going to be there for them for the next 5 to 10 years, who is forward thinking. The AI stuff is a good example on your part, right? In terms of forward thinking. But also that they don't have to be SMEs in it, that they've got a partner that they can call, that it will be, be able to handle and help all that stuff. So a lot of people are just looking for a direction to go. And, the obvious answers like say Nutanix or Nutanix is like, I guess is becoming in a way a bit of that 800-pound gorilla.
Second, they're the 300-pound gorilla.
There you go. That's a good.
The 100-pound gorilla next to VMware or something like that.
But like I said, there's and their product is great. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
The cost is tough for a lot of smaller, medium businesses, right? Yeah, I think that you guys coming in and especially with the Veeam support, to be honest with you, like being able to support the big names in backup are a huge deal for small and medium business because they invested in Veeam. They had VMware where you can't just
changing is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got administrators that are fully trained on it. You've got it embedded into your entire operation. From an operational perspective, it can be very difficult to change. We've seen it even with Topgolf. They were one of those that actually replaced their backup. They first asked Rubrik to just build in support for VergeOS because they're big enough to ask that, right?
Right.
I don't know how far it went, but we never ended up meeting with them, and they ended up saying no. But once they started using the native tools that we had in there for their use case, it aligned perfectly. They were like, we don't even need Rubrik anymore. But that's those use cases are few and far because you have to have a specific use case, right? And so we definitely recognize and have been pushing for years actually to get companies to come integrate with our API, and we're finally getting there. It's the biggest thing that we can do today, right? To help the people that you interact with as well as our current customers. I tell people all the time, I'm just so happy that there are alternatives and that people aren't just stuck being forced to go to VMware. I'm not bitter anymore, but there was a bit of a time where I was like, this is just like, it just seemed like capitalism run amok in a way. I think, it is. I mean, it is, to a certain extent, it is that. I mean, again, there was probably a way. It was beneficial for their stockholders. It's been beneficial for us. There was probably a way they could have handled it a little bit better, but it wouldn't have been as good for us.
Yeah. Well, and again, the silver lining with that, honestly, is that, I having hands-on with VergeOS, I've seen the value of it, and like that opportunity, striking while the iron's hot, getting out there and growing and be able to show people what you can do. That's the silver lining of all this. So I did have one more question. One of the things that I really liked in VergeOS was the multi-tenancy.
Yeah.
Are you guys working, and this might show my ignorance here, but are you working with cloud providers that are providing that or using that multi-tenancy for their customers and breaking that stuff out? Or how do you see the multi-tenancy being used in real life?
That is a lot. So it's used for a couple of things. One is we do have a large percentage of our customers, a decent sized percentage of our customers are managed service providers that are offering services to customers, and across the globe as well. We have a service provider in Nepal. They're like Nepal's leading cloud service provider. It's all running on VergeOS.
That's awesome.
So, but all, a lot of in the US as well. And the multi-tenancy that we built aligns really well with how they want to deliver services. I don't know if you really got into how they work, and if you want to, we can go in a little technical, but they're fully encapsulated versions of Verge that run their own code base. So, right. So they're completely isolated from the underlying root level system. You did know that? I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, I played with it just a little bit, but in a single deployment, it doesn't make it's more like, let's talk about what it can do.
Right. And so they basically, they mimic the physical deployment of Verge, right? So you can create tenant nodes. I can create multiple tenant nodes across nodes. Anyway, so they have their own management, their own complete separate API and UI with their own user authentication. So it works really well for divvying them out to customers because they're completely isolated and separated from everything else that's in that system. The other thing, they're portable because they're encapsulated in the snapshots and in our native snapshots. And those snapshots can be replicated between systems as well. And the tenant itself, along with the workloads, is encapsulated in the snapshot. So I can have a tenant that's running hundreds of virtual machines. I can click button restore all of those in a different Verge system.
That's super cool. Yeah, I didn't know you had that functionality. That's really badass.
They're immediately clonable. So we see a lot of you can give a developer a tenant. They can make a bunch of mistakes. You can just click restore back to this point in time. And you can schedule these for down to minutes if you wanted to, by the hour, every few hours. They're fully configurable how you take snapshots. But so we see a lot of organizations use them for their portability as well. So we have customers that run, multi-site, like live systems where they can just they can shut down a tenant, power it up over here, and everything is working. Because we also have, all the layer 2 and layer 3 networking built in, like BGP and OSPF. So we see a lot of complex deployments in how customers leverage tenants around security, isolation, as well as portability of all those workloads. And on the back end, they just run as service containers on the back end. Those tenant nodes just get spun up as a service container on the back end. All native in the operating system itself.
Are you guys looking at any sort of native VergeOS deployments in hyperscalers? That's the big buzzword these days when you see VCF and you see like Nutanix's offerings. They're like, oh, you're just going to rent some iron with Azure or AWS and run, basically an offsite or DR or whatever fault tolerant failover site. Yeah,
we actually have a full working AWS build. We just haven't published it to the marketplace. It is for exactly that use case. It would be for like a single node disaster recovery sort of system, or test that, whatever you want to do with it. But we just haven't launched it yet. We don't see a ton of people asking for it.
Right.
But we actually, it's completely automated and it just deploys. So it's I think we may do that in early 2026. We may actually publish it on the marketplace, give our customers the ability to procure VergeOS through the marketplace, whether it's because you can do that now with, I don't know if you know that, but AWS Marketplace, they can sell you the software that you deploy on-prem if you want. It's a purchasing sort of tool now for all different types of software. So I think we'll probably do that in the first quarter. All the technical work is done to be able to deploy there. And we're also working with some of the more bare metal providers as well. Okay. Like servers.com, latitude.sh. There's some of those bare metal providers that that's really geared more towards how we deploy our software, is leveraging one of those as opposed to the hyperscalers. And you can do multiple node systems in those bare metal providers as well.
Right. Yeah. It gives you a lot more flexibility than you get with the typical hyperscaler, right? So
the networking flexibility is really what it boils down to. I mean, the AWS and Azure have very strict rules around networking between things. And the way that Verge works is we kind of need, layer 2 connectivity between nodes to stitch them together today anyway. I mean,
right.
We also have a plan to support multiple node in AWS. We just haven't even started that work yet. We'll see what happens. Some of it's based on necessity, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna hit the things that your customers want right now. That makes total sense. And I've often wondered, like, who is actually asking for those features from the other big guys if it's just something that they can do. So that's their differentiator.
I think for the most part, when we hear it, it's more like, oh, can we do this? It's not. Yeah. I need to go do this tomorrow. The things that it's not. There's no immediate use case, which is why it's in the status it's in. We wanted to make sure that we could do it because we had heard it a few times. So we went and proved it out. We can do it. Now it's just about prioritizing it. And, VMware customers that are spurned by VMware are taking priority over it today.
Exactly. That's 100% it. Well, let's bring this to a close. I'm going to let you tell people where to go if they want to find out more about VergeIO and VergeOS and all that. Where do you want to send people? Because there's going to be people who see this and hear this who are like, I've never even heard of you guys. Who's this YouTube channel guy? So there's always that. So where do you want people to head?
Well, one, you can always go to the website. It's verge.io, which there'll probably be links to it.
Yeah, they'll be all over the place for this too.
Yeah, right. Verge.io is the best place. I'm also on LinkedIn. Just look me up. You can connect with me, send me a direct message. But those are the best ways to get a hold of us. I mean, if you're interested, we'd love to talk to you. We don't have a community edition right now, but we do. Anybody that wants to try our software, people want to come, they want to try our software, we'll give out licenses to them. Especially if they're looking to, get rid of VMware. So we give all of our customers the prospects the ability to, leverage the software, and we even give it out to, we would give out to anybody that came to us through 2GT. We would give them some not for sale license credentials that they could use for some basic stuff until we have a community edition. So we do that for all of our prospects. Go to verge.io. You can learn more about that AI stuff at verge.io/AI. Some of the stuff that will, make it easy, right? I mean, let's not make it hard. We don't need to have some huge, long, URL for this. There's a contact button. There's calls to action. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'll respond to anybody's message. Those are the best ways.
Cool. Well, Jason, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I know you're a busy man. I know that it's only an upward trajectory for you and VergeIO, but I do want to say thank you so much for taking the time, hanging out, filling me in on the changes and the audience, and we'll get a chance to look at the new version. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, I'll send it to you as soon as we get it ready.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jason. And that is going to do it for this video. Special thank you to Jason Yeager for spending the time with me and talking about all things Verge and enterprise virtualization. If you'd like more great content like this, consider subscribing, and we'll catch you in the next one.